This is your captain speaking. I'm very sorry to inform you that our plane has been hijacked. But rest assured, I'm doing everything I can to get us home safely. Everyone on the plane is terrified by this announcement from the pilot. Some people are praying to a higher power, while others are clinging to their children and crying uncontrollably. At this moment, the hijacked Indian Airlines plane is flying over Pakistan. There is only 5 minutes of fuel left. But when the captain requests landing clearance from Pakistani ATC, they refuse to grant permission for landing in their area. Lahore has even closed its entire airspace. The runway lights and all navigation aids have been turned off. Pakistan is also threatening that if the plane lands in its area, it will shoot it down. On the other hand, the hijackers are pressuring the captain to land the plane in Pakistan immediately, or they will blow it up with a bomb. What happens next with this flight? Who hijacked the plane and why? Do the people on board manage to escape from the hijackers? This is the story of Indian Airlines Flight 814, which will leave you astonished. So let's start today's story. December 25th, 1999. It's Christmas evening, and Indian Airlines Flight 814 is preparing for its flight to New Delhi at Tribhuvan International Airport in Kathmandu, Nepal. The flight has 190 people on board, including 176 passengers and 15 crew members. The plane is an Airbus A300 commanded by 37-year-old Captain Devi Sharan, along with First Officer Rajinder Kumar and 58-year-old flight engineer Anil Kumar Jagia. Inside the terminal, passengers are lining up for security checks. In this line, there are 5 men standing with their bags. As they pass through the detector, the security officer gestures for them to continue. However, this permission is a bit different from the rest of the passengers. How so? To understand this, we need to go back in time a bit. Actually, 4 weeks before, 5 tickets were purchased for IC814. 2 of these were for business class, and 3 were for economy. The names on these tickets were all fake and were connected to India's most wanted criminal, Dawood Ibrahim. In fact, Dawood Ibrahim, who is in Pakistan, makes a phone call that is answered by his associate in Kathmandu. Dawood instructs him that these 5 men should pass through security at Tribhuvan Airport without any questions. Indian intelligence in Nepal gets wind of a plan to hijack an Indian plane in Kathmandu. However, they do not know which plane it is or when the hijacking will occur. In Kathmandu, Indian intelligence is managed by the Research and Analysis Wing, or RAW. At this time, a senior RAW officer named Shashi Bhushan Tomar is stationed in Kathmandu. When the hijack news reaches him, he unfortunately dismisses it as a rumor, and the message is not sent to RAW leadership in Delhi. At the airport, all 5 men and the guns in their bags pass through security checks. The passengers on the plane are returning from their holidays. With the new year 2000 just a week away, people are excited and hopeful for a fresh start. The plane is aligned on the runway, and after receiving clearance, it takes off from Kathmandu at 4 p.m. local time. The plane gradually gains altitude and soon reaches 10,000 feet. Since it's a short flight of an hour and a half, the flight crew starts serving refreshments. At this point, the plane enters Indian airspace. Suddenly, a man sitting in business class stands up, puts on a ski mask and enters the cockpit. At that time, cockpit doors did not have the security precautions we have today, so he easily gains entry. He immediately points a gun at senior flight attendant Anil Sharma and says he has a bomb. He threatens to blow up the plane if the crew does not follow his commands. The other hijackers at the back of the plane do the same, pointing guns at passengers and crew to intimidate them. The 5 hijackers call each other by code names such as Chief, Bhola, Burger, Doctor, and Shankar. The chief hijacker orders Captain Sharan to make a right turn and fly west towards Lahore. He threatens, "If you don't do this, we'll start killing one passenger at a time." Captain Sharan is extremely distressed because the lives of so many people depend on his next move. However, it's also true that the captain is determined not to cross the Indian border, as he fears that if they leave, they might not survive. So Captain Sharan tells the hijacker that they don't have enough fuel to reach Lahore. The hijacker asks which alternative airport they can go to. Captain Sharan replies, "Mumbai." Hearing this, the hijacker, furious, points his gun and shouts, "Lahore is closer than Mumbai from Delhi. If you have fuel for Mumbai, you must have enough for Lahore. Turn the plane towards Lahore now." With his plan failing, the captain has no choice but to comply. Meanwhile, male passengers are being moved to the front of the plane, while female passengers and children are moved to the back. Inside the cockpit, the captain is still trying to figure out how to avoid crossing the border. Then he comes up with an idea and quickly sets the transponder to the hijack code 7500 to signal distress. At 4:40 p.m., the hijack code reaches Delhi ATC, and they immediately realize that IC-814 has been hijacked. They try to communicate with the captain, but the hijackers prevent the captain from talking to Delhi ATC. Delhi ATC notices that the plane has deviated from its route and is making a right turn. It doesn't take long for them to understand that the plane is heading towards Pakistan. As a result, Delhi ATC quickly contacts the government's crisis management group. Unfortunately, neither India's Intelligence Bureau nor RAW, which has experience with hijackings, are informed about the situation. At this point, no one from the Indian government is helping Captain Sharan, so he has to handle everything on his own. Nevertheless, he is hopeful that as long as the plane remains within India, Indian security forces will manage to deal with the hijackers and free the hostages. To buy some more time, Captain Sharan slows the plane's speed by 40% so that it stays within Indian borders longer. The plane is now flying over Punjab and is very close to the Pakistani border. At this time, the aircraft is broadcasting the hijack code. So Lahore ATC also becomes aware that the plane has been hijacked. During this time, relations between Pakistan and India are very strained. Only 5 months have passed since the Kargil War, and trust between the two countries is at its lowest. This situation makes the incident even worse. Captain Sharan is requesting landing clearance in Lahore, but Pakistan has clearly denied entry into its territory. The captain is worried about what to do next because fuel is running low and Pakistan is not granting landing permission. In the midst of this, Pakistan takes a move and closes the entire Lahore airspace. Captain Sharan pleads with the hijackers saying, "We don't have much fuel left. Amritsar airport is just 5 minutes away. Please allow us to land there for refueling, or the plane will crash soon." However, the hijackers are adamant that the plane will not touch Indian soil under any circumstances. As a result, the plane circles over the India-Pakistan border. Meanwhile, Captain Sharan contacts Amritsar ATC nervously, saying, "We have very little fuel left and Lahore won't let us enter their airspace. Please get permission to land in Lahore or they will blow up the plane. Unfortunately, Amritsar ATC lacks the training or experience to handle hijackings and hasn't received any direction from the central government, so they are unsure how to respond. Seeing no help coming, Captain Sharan realizes he must take action himself and starts begging the hijackers to allow refueling in Amritsar. When the hijackers see they have no other option, they grant permission to land in Amritsar. This brings a wave of relief in the cockpit. The captain quickly directs the plane towards Amritsar airport, hoping that help will be available there. At 6:44 p.m., the plane lands at Amritsar's Raja Sansi airport. All the passengers and crew members look at each other with joy. Their eyes are shining and they try to look out the windows to see what action is being taken to rescue them. Indian commandos have the best chance to free the hostages at this moment, but something happens that leads to widespread criticism both in India and worldwide, becoming a major historical blunder. The Amritsar Crisis Management Team receives instructions from Delhi to delay refueling as much as possible and ensure the plane does not take off under any circumstances. Punjab police is also ordered not to confront the hijackers and to wait for the Indian commandos. Surprisingly, at this time, the commandos are still 500 kilometers away from Delhi and have not yet departed for Amritsar. Soon the hijackers start to realize that the plane is not being refueled, and they suspect the captain has deceived them. Angrily they shout, "Someone or something is stopping us. If the refueling isn't done soon, we will start killing the passengers." This threat terrifies everyone, and the captain grows increasingly anxious, wondering why no action is being taken. Meanwhile, the passengers are also wondering why no one has come to rescue them yet. Then they see a fuel truck approaching from a distance. In reality, Delhi's crisis management team has instructed that a fuel truck be sent to the plane, but instead of fuel, it contains Punjab commandos. The truck is positioned in front of the plane to prevent it from taking off. The fuel truck carrying local commandos speeds towards the plane. ATC worries that if the truck goes too fast, the hijackers might become suspicious. Therefore, they order the driver to slow down. Confused by this order, the driver suddenly stops the truck in the middle of the runway. As soon as the truck stops in the middle of the runway, the hijackers become alert and suspect an impending attack by the commandos. Realizing the situation, the hijackers panic and order the captain to take off immediately. However, due to the lack of fuel, Captain Sharan refuses to take off. This angers the hijackers, leading to a heated argument with the crew, which results in the death of an innocent person. One of the hijackers, referred to as the Doctor, furiously goes into the business class cabin and stabs a 25-year-old man. The victim is Rupin Katyal, who had recently married and was returning from his honeymoon. The sight of blood from this attack causes panic among the passengers, and the captain begins to tremble in fear. The chief hijacker warns the captain that the longer the plane takes to take off, the more people he will kill. The chief hijacker then starts a countdown in the cockpit. 1, 2, 3. Seeing no other option, the captain is left with no choice but to head towards Lahore. He informs ATC one last time. "We are taking off. We are all going to die. We are heading to Lahore, but there is no hope of landing the plane." Gradually, the plane takes off from Amritsar airport, and the biggest chance to save the people on board is missed. As soon as the plane takes off, The NSG commandos who had come from Delhi arrive in Amritsar. Unfortunately, they arrive too late. Remember the raw officer Shashi Bhushan Tomar, who was in Nepal and had received information about the hijacking but dismissed it? Ironically, Shashi Bhushan Tomar himself is a passenger on this plane, sitting in seat 16C. Meanwhile, the plane is heading towards Pakistan in the dark of night. As the plane gets closer to the border, the captain's anxiety increases. Lahore's airspace is already close to them, but the captain knows there is no turning back. So he ignores this and continues crossing the border. After this, he requests landing permission again, but is denied once more. At the same time, Pakistan is threatening to shoot down the plane if it continues to fly in its territory. However, the crew ignores the threat and continues forward. To prevent the plane from landing, Pakistan turns off the airport lights and navigation aid. This means Flight 814 is now flying in the dark over an unknown country without permission. The captain repeatedly requests permission to land, and meanwhile, a low fuel warning starts in the cockpit. The captain in panic announces that they have only 5 minutes of fuel left. In the distance, Captain Sharan sees a row of lights and thinks it might be an airport. So he begins to descend the plane. As they get closer, the view ahead causes the captain to realize they are in serious trouble. What the captain thought was a runway turns out to be a road with cars and bikes moving on it. Realizing this, the captain immediately raises the plane's nose. He also understands that they are now only minutes away from disaster and that the plane could crash at any moment with 190 passengers on board. Just then, amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope appears, and with renewed determination, the captain starts operating the plane with renewed energy. Pakistan becomes worried that the Indian plane might crash in Lahore city due to running out of fuel. Therefore, they grant permission for the plane to land. The navigation aids and runway lights are turned back on. Finally, at 8 p.m., IC-814 lands in Lahore. A hijacked Indian plane is now in Pakistan, and as soon as it lands, elite Pakistani commandos surround it. Captain Sharan requests Pakistan to send stairs to help women, children, and injured passengers disembark, but Pakistan refuses. Pakistan wants the Indian plane to leave their country as soon as possible. Therefore, the Pakistani ATC tells the captain, "We can provide fuel, but no other assistance is possible." After 3 hours, with a full tank, IC-814 takes off again into the dark night. Meanwhile, all of India hopes for the safe return of the passengers, while mourning prevails in the homes of the onboard passengers' families and relatives. The hijackers then order the plane to be taken to Kabul, Afghanistan. However, since Kabul does not have night landing facilities, they decide to go to Oman instead. Like Pakistan, Oman also denies entry, so the plane heads towards the UAE. At around 3 a.m. local time, the UAE permits the plane to land at Al Minhad Air Force Base near Dubai. India requests the UAE to allow Indian commandos to take action on the plane, but the UAE is unwilling. The UAE demands that some passengers be released in exchange for refueling. After some negotiation, the hijackers agree to release 27 passengers in exchange for fuel. Among these 27 passengers, the body of Rupin Katyal is also removed from the plane. His wife, Rachna Katyal, who is sitting in the rear of the plane, is unaware that her husband has died. After refueling, the plane takes off again and heads north. The next day, which is the second day of the hijacking, the plane lands on the runway at Kandahar Airport, Afghanistan. The Taliban immediately surrounds the plane with armed fighters and tanks. The condition inside the plane is extremely dire. The food supply is very limited, and passengers are only receiving small amounts of food. The toilets are overflowing, and the passengers have been sitting in their seats for such a long time that they are now experiencing significant discomfort. The hijackers have ordered all the windows to be closed so that the hostages cannot see outside. The innocent people on the plane have no idea what will happen to them next. The entire day passes in this condition, and the third day of the hijacking begins. India has still not been able to contact the hijackers, and no one outside knows the situation of the people on the plane. On the morning of December 27th, the hijackers make their demands. India must release their 36 terrorists who are imprisoned in Indian jails. This is a huge demand, and India cannot release such dangerous terrorists just like that. Therefore, India sends its top negotiator, Vivek Katju, to Kandahar. It is the fourth day in Kandahar. The condition inside the plane is deteriorating. The passengers are becoming weak both mentally and physically, and they don't know if they'll ever see their families again. Meanwhile, the hijackers are becoming more aggressive. They are still insisting on their demands. Either release their accomplices from prison, or they will start killing the passengers. The fifth day begins in the same way. The Indian government tries to convince the hijackers to lower their demands, but the hijackers refuse. Finally, both sides agree that India will release 3 of the most wanted terrorists in exchange for its passengers. The names of the terrorists are Maulana Masood Azhar, Mushtaq Zargar, and Omar Sheikh. As soon as this deal is made, Indian officers depart for Kandahar with these terrorists. Upon arrival, the officers hand over the terrorists to the Taliban so that they can be given to the hijackers. Passengers are then taken off the plane, and the hijackers leave, handing over their weapons to the Taliban security forces. According to an agreement between the Taliban and the hijackers are dropped off by car near the Pakistan border, where they enter Pakistan. On the other hand, after disembarking from the plane, the passengers and crew members breathe a sign of relief and head home. In a few days, all the passengers return to their normal lives, but the horror of the hijacking never fades from their memories. Although only one passenger died in this hijacking incident, it is still considered the biggest failure in India's aviation history. That's all for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye and take care.